In verse 1, I mention this heavy weight. It's something I deal with to this very day. In January of 2020, my precious mother was taken from me. I still can't believe how intense the pain is.
Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your man, Royalty. We're here today, and we're back with another podcast episode. Next to me is the lovely
Lay the Bae. You already know what it is. I was gone for a minute. Now I'm back like the jump off. You heard?
and we giving you that raw
Educated.
analysis.
Of life, baby.
We back. Lay The Bae is back. It's been
Absolutely.
a cool 2-week vacation, you know.
Oh, yes. Shout out to the co-host for holding it down. You feel me? Thank you, thank you, thank you. While I was in this process of moving, I hate moving. It is the worst.
I bet.
Okay?
I already know it though. I moved halfway across the country into 2020.
Right. So you already know how that goes.
It's never
But
fun,
we back.
but
I'm here.
it's good to have you back. So we were gonna try to do
This.
something lighthearted this week, but it's been
Yeah.
a heavy week, you know. So it's been a heavy week for me.
Mhm.
So we're gonna talk about loss and the lasting effects of loss, and share some stories that we've had, and also thoughts on how to get through it, because it's never easy to get through losing someone. Death
Absolutely not.
is a part of life, though. You know what they used to say? The only thing guaranteed in this life is death and taxes.
Yeah.
You're gonna die, and then when you realize that the messed up part is you got to pay for it. Like, it costs to die.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
it's
You can
messed up
only imagine what the funeral service homes like, how much money they make. 'Cause people die every day.
a lot. They make a lot.
Like, that's crazy. And then people want fancy caskets and fancy this and fancy that, right? So I can only just imagine.
Like, there's a spot in LA where there's like literally like 2 or 3 of them, like Moors, like right across the street from each other.
Really?
Yeah, it's like y'all competing for y'all competing for who
For
gonna get
dead
that.
bodies.
it it's
That's like
sad.
that's like having 3 liquor stores in the same spot. It's
It
crazy.
Yeah, I didn't realize like how the system was until I had to deal with it myself when my mom passed away.
Mhm.
So it was like you don't realize how serious it is and how much of a business it is until that happens. Like,
Yeah.
it's a lot. So, and this week has been heavy for me and my wife. What she's going through, which I'll share after. But I would like you to, since you said you would share your story of loss first, and how it impacted you and affected you.
Okay. I'm gonna go back a little bit. I think the first time I ever experienced like knowing what death was when my father's brother died. And I was very young when he died. I didn't know what he died of. I just knew that my grandmother was in the kitchen crying. And at that point it didn't affect me, it affected me seeing her cry. Because
Mm,
I'm like, she's usually a happy person, and she's usually the one wiping my tears. So how do you? Um, and then later on down the line, I must have been like 16 when my aunt finally told me what he died of, and he died of AIDS.
mm,
Um, so that was kind of hard when I learned that afterwards. Um, then the I was 10 when my mother's mother died, and she died literally the day of my fifth grade prom. So I'm coming from my fifth grade prom, and as soon as I got in the house, my mother was getting a call that my grandmother had passed away. Um, I knew my grandmother. Slept over at my grandmother's house. My grandmother was an alcoholic. At
mm.
that point, she was a heavy alcoholic. But that never took away from the fact that she was grandma.
Right, right.
Um, so I never took it too hard for me. It was always seeing other people reaction at, I don't like to see other people cry. Like I really
Right,
don't.
right.
Um, then 2 years later, my uncle, my only uncle, so the same grandmother, my mother's mother, she only had one son. She had seven kids. Out of them seven kids, this was her only son. My uncle ended
Mm.
up killing himself and his wife. Homicide
Oh wow.
suicide. And that was like, nah, you gotta be kidding me. There's no way. Uncle Webster? Like, no.
So you were in shock.
But yeah, that was like the first time like death shocked me because you know how they say like damn, like I would never think somebody would do something like that. He was one of those people that we never expected it. To the day till this day it affects my mother because they were so close
Mm.
and she always felt like she could have prevented it if he would have spoke to her. She would have, she feels a little bit guilty about it in a way. Um, but that was the most shocking death. Then not too long after that, one of my mother's uncles died. Like right after he paid for me and his mom to go to Florida.
Mhm.
So death was happening like back to back for me, right? So I kind of sort of got immune to it a little bit. Like, all right, well, they're gonna die. Now, my great grandmother, I was sleeping with her in the same room because I don't mind sleeping in heat. I love heat. Because she's from Honduras, like she can't sleep in the cold. She's not used to that. And so I
Oh,
would
so
sleep with her every
Honduras
night.
is a hot place or humid? Is it hot and humid?
It's hot and humid. Honduras can get up to like 115 degrees.
Oh, we. Oh Lord.
Yeah. And I love it though.
Oh, I can't. I don't like that kind of weather.
But yeah, I was the only one that tolerated the heat like that, that would sleep with her in the room. And so I was sleeping with her for like the whole visit with us. And that night, something just told me to get up and go to my mother's room. And my mother's room was the only room that had AC in it. That's where everybody else was at. And the next morning we woke up. Her and my mother always used to share dreams stuff. So my mother's about to tell her about her dream that she had. And she was not responsive. Mind you, she always slept on her side. And when we found her, she was facing up with her hands like technically like on top of each other, right?
Oh
Just
wow.
yeah. And my mother screamed. She called her name. Nothing. I went behind my mother and checked her pulse when I like her wrist was already purple. Like
Oh
that's how
wow.
I need.
So she
Yeah,
was
that's
gone
how
for a
I.
while.
Yeah. So she technically died in her sleep. Then it took about 6, 7 hours before the coroners came. So when dead people, when someone dies and their body just laying there, it starts to develop this smell. So at one point we just had to close the door, but people were still going in there. Of course, her children came to see her. The coroners finally came, and that was always a not I wouldn't say traumatic, but I always wonder like what made me get up and go to my mother's room that night. Some people say, oh, it's a spirit of death that was warning you. You know, my family is very religious, so they believe in that. And I think so too.
It
You know.
very much could have been because as like we talked about religion last week, there are things in this world that we cannot explain. And
Mhm.
so like whether it's
Mhm.
you being somewhere at the right time or you feeling the feeling, like whether that be that feeling
Yeah.
sometimes you get somewhere and you be like, this is not where I need to be, and then you find out later that place got
Mhm.
shot up where it was just like something was off, you didn't need to be there. So it was just like something was in the area. Something woke you up and
Something is protecting you,
right.
right? You feel like someone is protecting you, someone looking over you. Um, and that's how I felt that night. Like I felt that like for me to just abruptly get up and go to my mother's room, I didn't. I was like, yes, it clearly was some type of angelic form protecting me. Um, Next death that affected me because the way I deal with death, I don't talk at all. Because I have a great understanding that people die, and I always feel like when they die, it's because they're off to a better place. And so the first one that really actually affected me, where I actually shed tears, because even going to funerals, I don't cry. I never cried. And I always used to think there was something wrong with me for that. Like why you not sharing the same emotion as everyone else? And I always felt like I had to be strong for everyone else. I think that's
Right,
what it
right,
is. And so when I was 27, I lost my son, and at 4 months,
oh
it was
my
four
God.
months. At that point, I didn't know he was a boy, but I knew I was having a boy. And mind you, I went to the doctor that Tuesday. That Saturday, I was having a miscarriage. And so when the doctors came in and they checked me and they was like, "All right, you're experiencing a miscarriage," and I was like, "Okay." And all I kept saying was, "God, this is your will. However you want this to play out, I'm ready." And so I put my Pandora on and I put some, worshiping music, and I was calm. And the nurses could not figure out why I would be so calm in a situation like this. And I told them, I was like, if you know God the way I know God, then you know that everything is His will
Right.
and everything's happens for a reason. At this point, there's nothing I can do but go through this process. And so they waited to see if he would come down on his own. I went to the hospital at 7 in that morning. I had to give birth to him. So technically I pushed my child out.
Did you know you knew you were pregnant and everything and like
Yeah.
during this
Yeah.
oh man.
And so as I was pushing him out, um I'm still not crying. Like I have no. It's not that I didn't care. It wasn't that. It was more
Right.
like I understand. Where I started to feel more and more okay about it, because they asked me, they was like, "Do you want to see him?" Yeah, I do. Do you want him in a room with you? Yeah, I do. And so he brought him in a room. He was dead, but I got to hold him. And so I told the nurse that was with me, I said, "When you get off work, you can take him with you." She was like, "Okay." So my mom came. My mom's like, like, "Why would you have the baby here? Like, he's not like." And I'm like, "This is my son." And so at that point, everything it was still surreal to me. The nurse came when she got off. She took him. It really hit me when I went to the funeral home to make arrangements. That's when it hit me. I said, "Now I know what a mother feels like when she loses a child." Because although Zaire was only 4 months and he didn't live a full life, he didn't even develop, it still hurts to have
I
to go to a funeral home, sit down with someone, a stranger, and arrange the death of, the passing of a child.
I can't imagine how painful that is, and then also it
Ooh,
bothers me that people try to minimize that. Well, you don't even get a chance because when especially for a mother, you are bonding from that time, like from the beginning of conception. That bond is being built. That was a life growing inside of you, up to feeling a heartbeat to everything. Like this is a bond
yeah,
already. So
yeah.
it's real. It's a, that's
And
a real person. That's why you gave him a name. That's like he's a person. He's still
yeah. And so, oh man, I, ooh. Um,
It's okay. We
at
feel
that
feelings
point,
on here on the real podcast. Everybody, we feel feelings here. It's okay. You might see me cry one day. I might end up crying today. I'm not gonna lie.
um, at that point, I was like, Zaire to me symbolized every black male who has died by the
Mm,
hands of police, every black man or young man who has died at the wrong place, wrong time. And I can only imagine what a mother is going through at this moment when she has to say, when they asking you questions like, do you want the body to be buried or do you want to be cremated? Like, what? Huh? I chose for Zaire to be cremated. And I held on to his ashes for as long as I could. Um, when I moved down here to Georgia, I buried him in the backyard. Because for me, I felt like that was my closure.
mm,
I in they gave me a box, right? So they gave me a little this urn with his ashes in it, and it came in a purple box, which is crazy because that's my favorite color.
mhm.
Um, and then it had the clothes he had on at the hospital, and his bracelet and whatnot, and I buried it. Um, I still think about him. Um, what was that? 2018, which was so crazy, right? Because prior to that, I kept seeing 9/11, 9/11, 9/11, 9/11, 9/11, 9/11, and I always associated 9/11 with death. Zaire was born November 18th, 2018. 11, 1 plus 8 equals 9. 2018, if you add those numbers together, equals 11. And so, in a way, I was like, all right, I get it. It's everything happens for a reason.
Right,
You never know exactly what that reason is until you actually get to that point, but everything happens for a reason.
right,
And so, it's sad to say, out of my son's death came nothing but positivity for me. I ended up moving to Georgia, um, stopped smoking cigarettes,
oh
stopped
wow.
smoking weed. I became more fit. I started meditating. I started fasting. Um, I just, I was in a, I had a peace of mind, something I've never had. And it all stemmed from that loss. Then afterwards, as time goes on, you learn how to deal with things, especially, death.
Right.
Um, my older sister was sick. She was sick for a while. And my mother kept telling me, go see her, go see her. My sister lived in North Carolina, so it's nothing but a
How much
4 hour drive.
older than you was she?
Oh, so this is the crazy part. My father has 4 daughters. My older sister Jasmine, she was born October 27th of 1987.
Oh
My second sister,
wow.
my second sister was born October 31st of 1989. Then I was born October 28th of 1991.
Well, you know one thing
So
for
my
sure. Your daddy was doing it around the same time every year. He was like, "Yep, this the time of year to do."
it was either Valentine's Day, somewhere around there, somewhere. But what was so crazy, I was born late. My mother's due date was actually October 5th, so I should have been a Libra,
Mm,
but I came out later.
wow.
So her birthday's the 27th, mine's the 28th, and Nadine's is 31st. My youngest sister, the baby, her birthday is November 25th. So we're all like right there next to each other. Um, so she was sick for a while. She had this heart complication, and we they knew that the time would come, but we didn't think it would come that fast. And so I told my mom, I'm like, I'm gonna go see her. I'm gonna go see him. But at this time, I'm working for the sheriff office and I'm working 12-hour shifts. When you work in 12-hour shifts, we're talking about one week I'm working 2 days, but the next week I'm working 5 days. And whenever they call me in, I'm still working those 12 hours. I'm tired,
Your day is shot
real
working
tired
12-hour shift. There's nothing else you could do during that day other than eat and go to sleep.
at all. That's it. Shower, wash your ass. That's it.
Right.
Um, so I said, my next week that I have 2 days off, I'm gonna go see her.
Mhm.
I didn't make it to the week. My sister died July 18th, 2021,
Mm.
which was so crazy to me because Zaire died 11/18 of 2018. So here we go again with that 18, that number. Like, what's wrong with that number, right? Um, I was, I cried. I'm not gonna lie to you. I cried immediately, because I felt guilty. Because I kept saying I was gonna go see her and didn't get to see her. So I never seen my sister. The last memory I have of my sister is when I was with my father, 2011.
Oh man.
Yeah,
Had y'all talked
and
since then though? Like before in between those times?
because she was going through a situation where I couldn't speak to her. But that's another story for another time. She was going through a situation, and nobody like I couldn't we couldn't have no contact. But it hit me because I was like, damn, I could have took off. Could have put in some, time in from work and just went down there because I knew she was in a hospital. Um, and oh man, oh sorry guys.
You don't have to apologize. This is real. It's a lot. That's you start asking yourself those questions. What if I would have took that extra time and all of that? Like,
No, I'm crying because my sister died in July. I found out I was pregnant in September, and as much as I wanted a boy, God blessed me with a girl. And so when I see my daughter, she's just as vibrant and feisty as my older sister. She's very girly, like Miss Attitude. Um, and I just see my sister in her. And they always say that, when somebody passes away, they come back in another life. Um, and so I found out I was pregnant from the very beginning, and everybody was like, "It's a girl." Saying, "Come on, now. It can't be a girl. It's a boy. It's a boy." Mind you, my older sister she has two boys. She never had a girl. And
mm,
so when I found out that I was having a girl, I was like, okay, this is her. This is her coming back to us. Um, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. And so, for us, as far as the sisters go, um, Nadine, my second older sister, has her son, and they s- they also live in North Carolina.
mm.
Uh, and my dad, you can tell my dad was affected by it because he's more like on top of us now, especially the like me and my baby sister because we're the last two. And so he calls and makes sure we're okay, and how's the baby doing and things of that nature. Like he's more like he was already a protective dad. Now he's just like extra
Oh, he on 10
sometimes.
now?
Oh, ooh. But I understand. I understand. Uh, yeah, that right there was it for me. I think that for some reason I keep mentally preparing myself for when my paternal grandmother dies, because she's the reason why I'm here. She's the woman that made me the woman that I am today.
Mm,
She invested in me, and although I don't see her going anywhere anytime soon, I know that when that day comes, it's gonna hit me hard. So I mentally prepare myself, and for some reason, I feel like I'm gonna be the last person people call because she's in Honduras, and everyone knows how I feel about her. Everyone knows how she feels about me, and everybody knows the relationship that me and her have. And but outside of that, though, like death to me is it could be a bad thing. It could be a good thing in a way, like a blessing in disguise type thing.
right, right.
Um, but nobody wants to go through it.
Nobody.
I think that's the biggest fear is dying. Dying and knowing that you didn't have time to talk to that person, or you didn't have enough time to share more memories with that person, or things like that. But we know it's going to happen. We
Yes.
just don't know when.
Yeah.
You know. So,
The, the,
but yeah.
the
Whew.
question I have for you is, so you were dealing with the loss of your sister when you found out about Giselle. Did that bring up any feelings about the loss that you had a few years earlier with your son? Like,
Um, no,
no?
mm-mm. Because Zaire's death to me symbolized the end and the beginning of something.
Right, right,
Because at that very same time that Zaire passed away, I was going through a divorce. And so to me it was like the end of one chapter, the end of a book and opening a new book.
right.
That's how I saw it, and that's how I took it. And then my sister passing was, how you pray for something. I prayed for my daughter. I asked God to bless me again with another child. Um, but when you pray for something, you're not very specific with it, right? And in this case, it was like, to me, I felt like it was a trade-off. That's how I saw it.
Wow.
I'll give you something, you gotta give me something. That's how I took it.
That you got the biggest blessing of all,
Yeah,
given when you gave birth to Giselle. So
yeah. And I'm just like, all right, cool, I'm good. But I know for a fact Giselle's gonna be a lot because I'm more of a tomboy, you know, and Giselle's not like that at all.
oh, she gonna be
Giselle's
a
gonna
girly
be
girl,
like,
Lou.
like what? And she look at you like, like,
Oh, she got
she's
that
funny.
energy already.
Yeah, she's funny with it. You understand? But my sister was a girly girl. Like she was into the makeup and the hair, and, the dressing and this and that. And, she was boom. Like, and that's the type of vibe Giselle gives me. So it's a beautiful thing.
Wow. Uh, my story of loss has marked my life. So, like, there's points in my life that are marked by loss, like periods in my life that are marked by loss. So, what signified a huge change in my life was when I was 16 years old and my grandmother passed away. And well, actually, let me go back because this happened. Like, this is the first time I experienced real loss because I had, small things happen before. Like, I lost
Mhm.
the aunt that I never met the day before my sister was born was her funeral. Well, the day my sister was born, her funeral was. And then I had a friend who his sister, I met her a couple times. She passed away. She used to pick him up from school. We went to her funeral, but I didn't even go up to see the casket. So I had never even seen a dead body
Mm,
to go to. And then 2002 December, I can't remember the exact day in December, but it was 2002. And my I was at church. Of all places, you think church is supposed to be the safest place, right?
mm,
And we were in choir rehearsal, and I had this friend that I had met a couple months before. His name was Tori, and him and I connected. This is back when I was first getting into hip hop and I was making music, and he
yeah.
rapped too. So I'm like, yeah, and he was a pretty boy. All the girls at church liked him, and
Ah,
he was my boy though. Like, like this, we cool. We about to make some songs
yeah.
together. I'm gonna get popular just because he looked like he looked. Like we
Mhm.
gonna blow up. So
Pretty Ricky.
yeah, he was that,
Ah,
like light skin, curly hair, like yeah, he was that. So when I saw him in right before choir rehearsal, I was asking him to come to choir rehearsal. He was like, "Nah, man." But after choir rehearsal, we used to have youth night right after, which was like a church service for the youth. So he said,
yeah.
I'll see you at youth night. So I was like, all right. I shook his hand, and I went to choir rehearsal. And so during choir rehearsal, in the middle of choir rehearsal, we hear this loud like bang, and it sounds like something fell in the foyer of the church. If you don't know what the foyer of a church is, then you ain't been to a black church yet.
Right.
That's one of them church words, a foyer. So we heard something fall. I thought we heard something fall out there. I thought it was a table. And then Tori's cousin came to the front to the church. He's at the back, and he said, "Help!" And our choir director said, "Stop playing," and said, "Help again." And our choir director said, "Get down, everybody, get down." Come to find out, Tori had got shot on the church steps. We had a liquor store directly across the street from our church, which we all used to go to. Like, it was like a liquor store in California is not like a liquor store in Georgia or someplace down south. Liquor stores are, candy, snacks, you
Really?
toys, everything, plus liquor and cigarettes and all of that. It's a all kind of store, but it's called a liquor store because they sell liquor there, but they sell everything there. You don't have to be grown to go in that store.
Wow.
So we were kids, we used to go there and get yo-yos and stuff like that or whatever.
I
So
get
he
yo-yo.
so he went over there to get some candy or something like that.
Mhm,
And I guess one of the some girls started talking to him.
mhm,
And like I said, he's a pretty boy. So I know, like, this is the type he wouldn't have typed to approach somebody else. The girl was talking to him, he talked back. It just so
mhm,
happened the girl had a boyfriend, and the boyfriend was in the
mm,
store, and he got
mm,
jealous.
mm.
And Tori by this time I think, I don't know for sure, but I think he had probably just thought nothing of the situation. He walked back to church. And
Yeah.
as he was walking back to church, like walking back the stairs, the guy came up and shot him. I think it was once in the head and once in the chest, right there. And so
Shut up.
while we were there, and like it was intense to me because I had just shook his hand. Like I had just shook his hand, and I'm just like, damn, like he's gone. And then we had at the church sitting, I had to wait there like an hour before our parents came and got us. And by the time we got outside, he wasn't right there anymore, but you could still see the blood the
On the
the pavement,
concrete.
on the concrete
Yeah.
right there. I'm just like,
Oh,
for a while after that, like I disconnected from church and everything. Like I was just like, this is not
yeah.
real. So this marks a period of my life of loss, because right after that, in January of 2003, mind you, this is December 2002. So January, just
Mhm,
a few weeks later, my uncle, my great uncle, which is my grandma's brother, got sick and he passed. And my mom went to go see him, and he passed away. Before they got there, he passed.
mhm.
So they went out there for his funeral and everything. And then when they came back, uh, this is the crazy thing to me. Like, so that was my grandma's oldest brother, and she was the second oldest.
Yeah.
So, my grandma was the most active 72-year-old woman that you would ever see.
Mm.
She was always like
On the go.
on the go. Like grandma was, it was funny because our routine, my grandma lived with us. So our routine, like, it'd be funny, like we would pull up in the garage, and my grandma's car was on the side of our. We had a 4-car garage. So my mom's car here, which is usually the one we drove, my dad's car, and then my grandma's car on the other side of the thing. So we would pull up, and oh, grandma's home. That was the thing.
Yeah.
So but a lot of times she wasn't there. She would be out an hour away with her other kids, like she'd be doing something all the time. Like grandma would not stop moving. So this is a shock to me when she got back. I remember it was like probably a week after she got back from my uncle's funeral.
Mhm.
She My parents had went on vacation to Vegas. But in California, Vegas is only 4 hours away. And it was
Mhm.
so my grandma was supposed to be watching my sister and I got up. Something just didn't feel right. Like you said, like you just wake up and you just something didn't
Mhm.
feel right. Like something off. I don't know why. I don't ever usually wake up in the middle of the night like this at this
Yeah.
time. Like I'm sleeping through the night, or if I get up, I'm not going downstairs. Like we had 2-story house. So I'm not going downstairs to see what's going on.
Mhm.
When I get there, my grandma's door is open and I'm like, something's off. So I go outside, grandma's car is still there. What's going on? Like,
Mhm.
I'm like, where is she at? She ain't gonna leave nowhere without her car. Come to find out, my aunt had to come take her to the hospital. She wasn't feeling well, and my mom and dad called me like right then. I was like, what are the chances of you guys calling me right when I wake up right now? It's like, so I know you're probably up wondering where your grandma is. We didn't have no cameras in the
Mhm.
house at this time. It's '03.
Right.
Hold on. That was weird.
What happened?
It said I had a thing like you put your hand up or something. That was weird.
Oh, spooky.
That was weird.
Spooky. I'm
Okay,
telling you.
I'm leaving that in.
Supernatural.
I'm leaving that in.
Good.
So a week after that, my grandma gets out the hospital and
Mm,
things are supposed to be okay. Around this time, I got suspended from school. This is a whole nother story. Suspended from school. So I was at home and they told me to watch my grandma.
mhm.
And so I went in the room and I was so terrified. I went in there and she wasn't moving. And I shook her, grandma, grandma. And she woke up and I'm like, okay,
Close one.
yeah, I'm thinking, okay, I just realized she was just asleep. So I gave her some oatmeal and thinking everything was fine. So then she ends up going back to the hospital. This time I don't go visit her. My mom goes a bunch of times. I go one time, and the one time I went, I'm just like, this is not my grandma.
Mhm.
I can't. Like everything in me was like, don't. I can't go back. Like it was just too hard for me to go there
Yeah.
because like she was close. Oh, one thing I want to say is when she came back from Oregon, which is where the funeral was, she had called me down to her room to fix her TV. And she was like, Terry, come fix my TV. That's my family calls me Terry. Come fix my TV. And I came down and it was nothing really wrong with it. I just needed to put the tape in. But I realized now what she was doing. She wanted me to come see the tape. And so I put the tape in and she was like, sit down. And so I sat down and it was an old, you know what a reel to reel is, right?
Uh-huh.
So it was an old reel to reel with no sound, but it was converted to VHS.
Really?
And it was of all of my family members in the '70s, like, and it had my mom as like real little, like
Like a
mid '70s.
baby.
Yeah, I'm just like, and she just started pointing out, that's your mom, that's your auntie, that's your uncle
Mhm.
such and such, that's my brother, and she just started pointing out all kind of names to me, and I'm just like, in my head, I'm like, why is she doing this? Like she's never
Right.
done this before, but I realize now that she knew that her time was coming, and she wanted me to know who my family was,
Mhm.
and she broke it down to me, and I just sat there and I was enjoying every second of it because I'm like, this is awesome. I don't know who these people are.
Right.
So it's just like, this is okay. This is who, oh, that's my mom when she was little. Wow. Like it was beautiful. So, like I said, like a week later, when she went to the hospital again, I saw her one time. After that, I couldn't go back. And so I remember waking up um one morning and I just hear people downstairs at my house. And it was like, that's abnormal because people don't come up to where we lived at because we were far away from the rest of the family. We didn't have that kind of house where people just showed up like that. So I'm like, this is weird. So I go downstairs and my mom tells me, your grandma passed away. And I'm in shock. Like, I didn't even cry right then. I'm just in shock. Like, I'm like, this is too much. And I'm supposed to be going to school right now. So I'm going upstairs and I'm acting like I'm getting ready for school. Like, I'm out of it. And then I tell my sister that we got to stay strong. Everybody's here. And I told her what happened. And she broke down right there. And so she fell into my arms. I hold her. And I'm just like, I'm in shock. This is the first time I ever saw somebody passed away is when we went to the funeral home, and that's the first time I ever touched somebody who passed away. But it was at the funeral home. My cousin and I held hands and we touched my grandma together in the casket.
Oh,
And
I did that with my grandmother. I waited till everybody was gone though.
really,
Yeah.
like, I didn't know that you could. And so I
Yeah.
asked my cousin. She's her name Maisha. She's 5 years older than me, and she held my hand and we did it together. But it was just so real
How
to
did it
us.
feel?
I didn't know how to feel, but it was like it hurt.
Mm,
But I didn't know how to process it at the time. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know that my life was about to change forever. Like, that year marked the beginning of the end of my parents and I's relationship at the time, because my mom, it was the beginning of my mom. It broke her. That was her mom. It broke my mom. Like, she started to become very distraught. She would be crying. Like, we would be driving. I remember one time she was driving and she just started crying so bad that I had to tell her to pull over. I'm
mm,
like, Mom, pull over, because like she's crying, just hyperventilating and everything. I'm like, Mom, pull over, pull over, pull over. And she pulled over and just had a breakdown for like 30 minutes. And the hard part was uh my aunts and uncles weren't really there for me, and everybody, like, people were there for my mom and my sister, and my dad especially was there for my mom and my sister, but nobody asked me how I was doing.
right.
I had to go back to school and act like everything was okay when it wasn't. Like, and like I said, my mom tuned out at this time. She was not my mom anymore at this time, and she was a broken woman at this time. So that's
Mm,
what caused a lot of things that happened afterwards, like, which was my parents kicking me out and all of that. Like, it started from there, and I still think to this day, if my grandma was still there,
yeah.
she would not have allowed my parents to kick me out. She
Yeah.
would not have. She would have pulled rank. I know this y'all house and everything, but my grandbaby ain't going nowhere. She was gangster like that. One of the memories I want to share about my grandma is I had a friend who ended up turning out to be a buster at that time. He got himself some skater friends, white boys friends,
Mhm,
and him and I were close. Like, we wrote to school together and everything. We went to the same private
yeah.
school. So when he got these friends, he thought he got big and bad and everything, and started making fun of me. So this is back when we had printers at school. So he printed
Yeah.
out a picture of me. I don't know how he got it. And it said on the picture, have you seen this monkey?
Ah, shut up.
I swear, I was just like, bro, you were my friend. I found out he did it. And so I took off, like, mind you, I was a fat kid, but
Yeah.
I could run. So I caught up to him,
Yeah.
but then I was just like, I can't believe he had posted it around, like, probably like 4 or 5 different places in our neighborhood. I'm
Mm.
just like, that's foul. So I went home and told my grandma. My grandma's first response was like, go put your bad shoes on. I said, what? Go put your bad shoes on. Let's go.
Well, I know what
L-
that means
it,
already.
she, it was so funny.
Girl, I was ready to put that ass.
She was like, let's go. She was like, let's go.
Uh,
And she drove me up the street to go beat him up. She was just like, and told his grandma, got the car with her cane, get your ass back in your house.
oh, grandma was the OG
Oh,
OG.
oh yeah, she was with it. She was with it all the smoke. So I have a lot of good memories about her, but that time marks a period in my life where things started to shift. But I had a therapist later on.
I was about to ask you that. I was about to ask, did you get grief counseling for that?
I didn't even get grief counseling until a year later, a year and a half later, when I finally started the process of. But by this time, my parents had kicked me out, so the grief counseling I was getting was inside of a facility, like for
Mm,
it was basically like another juvenile hall.
yeah.
And I had a therapist, and the only good thing she did, because she was a terrible person. I'm gonna talk about the what she did to me
Jesus.
another another
Podcast?
podcast, but she was
Whoa.
very inappropriate. So we could talk about that on another one.
Ah,
But one thing that she did,
inappropriate professionals.
yes. Oh yes, it was bad. So one good thing that she did do was tell me how to she said, write your grandma a letter. And I said, why she can't read it? She said, write everything that you wish you would have said to her before she passed away. And she said, afterwards, burn it and let it go in the air,
Mhm,
and it'll be to her. So I wrote down, and it was like a 5-page letter, everything I was thinking, because I was so much stuff I wanted to tell her. Like I wanted to
mhm.
say sorry that I didn't come to the hospital. Sorry, I'm a disappointment now. Like it was
Yeah,
everything, and it helped me a lot. Like so it
that
was
was
like,
good.
yeah, it was like this is a lot. And then for me, the process of grieving was like I didn't lose anybody for a while. I lost an uncle uh a couple of years after that, but when I lost my uncle, I was in jail.
Mm,
So like I didn't even know he passed away till afterwards. So I didn't even it really didn't affect me much. It was like I love my uncle, and he was actually my favorite uncle. But it was just
yeah.
like, but he was sick before that. He was not doing well
Mhm,
before that. So like he had not been he wasn't there. Like
yeah.
he was, I don't know how to put it, but he couldn't speak anymore and he couldn't walk. And so the last time I saw him talking everything was like 1999. So when he passed in '07, it was like, okay,
You
it was
kinda
his,
knew it was
yeah, it
coming.
was it was his time. So it
Mm,
didn't hit me. So I didn't end up getting affected by a loss again until 2017, when my other uncle passed away.
mm,
And this one hurt me a lot because him and I had our ups and downs, and my uncle was a drug addict. I'm not gonna mince words or nothing. He was an addict, but
mhm,
he was one of my other favorite uncles. When I started getting in trouble and everything when I was younger, and I went to juvenile hall, he took the time out to write me a letter from jail to tell me to get on the right path, and tell me, like, that he was
yeah.
trying to be a good uncle, like, hey, don't do what I'm
Alright.
doing. Like I'm fucking up. Like, you need to get on the right
Mhm,
path. And so I came out to visit my parents in 2015, and he was okay. I remember came back in 2016 when I moved back to California after my ex-wife and I split up, and I saw him again, and he had this bump on his neck, like kind of like the size of a
like a kilo?
yeah, like a golf ball. It was on the inside, and I'm like,
Cancer.
Unc, Unc, what's that? And he's like, oh, it's nothing. I wasn't gonna tell nobody. I had it like when y'all came down uh, last year, but it's not that big of a deal. And
Mm,
then he said he got a check. It said it's not cancer. And then he went back in again, and he said it is cancer.
mhm,
And it went from he's okay to he's not, like, really fast. And so he ended up moving back in with my mom, and I had to feed him. Like I had to
mhm.
feed him. His neck had gotten so bad that it was just an open gash. They removed the tumor that
The
was right
tumor?
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it never healed. So it was literally I had to change his wound, and I had to feed him because he couldn't eat like food. So he had a thing on the side of his stomach, so I had to give him food packets through there. So I helped take care of him. And honestly, that was probably one of the best things I could have done. It was hard for me, but I felt like I was of service. In his last
Yeah.
days, he knew that I loved him. He couldn't talk anymore, but he was still there. I told him I loved him, everything. So when he passed away, like the next month, and my wife and I went to go see him, like he passed away while we were there. So that was the closest I had been to somebody passing away. We
Yeah.
weren't we weren't there when he passed, like in the room, but we were at the hospital. We
Yeah.
pretty much watched him bleed to death. because they couldn't stop the bleeding from his neck. So it was just like constantly bleeding, like pool. I'm sorry for this triggers anybody, but this is honest. Like
Yeah.
so we had went. I think it was a sign from God because my mom and my mom, my aunt, and my uncle were there, and my wife. She was my wife then. We were engaged at the time. So she had I think she was the one that said it. We was like, we're hungry, so we all went down to the cafeteria to get some food. And when we got back up, he had passed away. So we weren't
Wow.
we weren't in the room when he passed.
Mm.
And then I saw my mom and my aunts just, they just were distraught. And I could feel it. That was my mom's closest brother in age.
Mhm.
And they were the only ones that had the same mom and same dad. So
Whew.
so so it was intense.
I can
It
only
was
imagine.
it was intense. And then that was the closest I ever been to planning the funeral because I was with my mom for their support. So we went to the funeral home together. We went to the cemetery together, and that's actually when my mom bought her plot. By this time, my parents had split up, and so she told me that she wanted to be buried next to my uncle, and she
Oh.
wanted to be cremated.
Mm.
And so this marked another period of loss because after this, the very next year, my wife's uncle was going through the same situation where he passed away while we were there in the hospital. And
Wow.
this is the closest I've seen somebody like where we were there and we watched the vitals go down from,
Oh, be flatline.
and it was just like damn. And even though I didn't know him like that, I met him twice, but it was just like being in the same room as somebody. It was like I don't know how to cope with this. This is a lot, and it became more real. So my mom, and this is crazy. My mom had the foresight to talk to me about death, which is one thing that I encourage everybody to do. If you have a loved one and you have tell people what you want
Yeah,
because it's stressful to
absolutely.
sit there and plan stuff afterwards. It is really stressful if you don't have life insurance, if you don't want your family out there having a car wash for you because it's already
Mhm.
stressful enough. So my mom would talk to me about it and I'd be like, Mom, nothing. She was just like, I want to be cremated. This is how
Mhm.
this is how you access my policy. You
Mhm.
are the one over my policy. I want you to do this, this, and this. She had everything planned out for when my
Set
mom
up.
passed.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, Mom, this gonna be like 20 years off. Like you ain't nowhere near passing away. That's 40, 50 years. My mom only 20 years older than me. So I'm like, you still young, you in your 50s. You ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
uh when January of 2020 hit, and I've shared a little bit of it, but I'm gonna go into detail here, guys. I got the call that my mom was in the hospital, and they were like, "Come down fast. She might need a, a liver transplant." We don't know what was going on. So, but I remember the soonest flight I could find was 2 days later.
Mhm.
So she was in the hospital, and the night before my flight was leaving, my sister said, "Oh, Mom woke up," and she smiled and she waved at me. I'm like, "Mom, I'm on the way. I'm coming out there." And she smiled and was just like, "Okay." And I remember I took a flight, and by the time I got to Texas, it was in the midst of a big storm, so they shut down the airport. No planes was leaving, so I
Mhm.
had to stay in the airport for overnight for 12 hours.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is a lot. Like, I need to get to my mom. So when I finally get there, I'm so
Mhm.
exhausted that I could not sleep. I'm just thinking the worst. Like I felt it. Like I didn't want to think it because my mind, I was like, I'm gonna be out here until she gets better. So if she gets on hospice, I'm gonna be here there with the nurse taking care of her, everything.
Mhm.
One thing I didn't say is she bought a house in Mississippi, so that's why she was not in California. So she bought a house in Mississippi and put it in my name. So when I saw her in September the previous year, she just kept saying, "Son, how do you like your house? This is your house, son." And I'm like, "Mom, this is your house. You live in here, So
Mhm.
when I get there to the hospital, I had to be the one to make the decision, and it was hard because she had gave me her
Hold up.
instruct.
The decision for what?
Yeah, to mm, this sticks with me. She was on life support at that time,
Wow.
Just like the day, 2 days before she was awake, but they were telling me that they don't know how long she has,
Mhm.
and she's only being kept alive on the machines. Basically, the only thing that they could really do is keep her comfortable.
Yeah.
And my mom had told me before, uh, several times. She had told all of us. She said, "Don't keep me alive on no damn machines. I do not want to
But
be no vegetable."
still in all, I think that wasn't an easy decision for you to
It
make.
was not. It was
Although
not.
you knew what she wanted.
It's the ultimate form of respect to respect somebody's wishes like that. And it is
Yeah.
hard because everything in me wanted to be selfish and be like, well, keep my mama alive on these machines and y'all
Mhm.
better not take her off. Like, but I had to, like, so the doctor stepped out. I talked to my sister and my aunt who was there. And it was hard because I'm the oldest and I had to make that decision.
Mhm.
And so the doctor came back in and I said, well, my mom always told us that she did not want to be kept alive on machine. So we would like you to keep her comfortable. And they said, well, we don't know if she has days or it could be days or weeks. So I was so tired. Um, so I was like, okay, let's get a room out here. I don't know how long we're gonna be here. So we get a room. I fell asleep for like an hour or two, and then my sister wakes up and said, let's go to the store so we can get some food. So we head to Walmart, and my sister gets the call that my mom passed away. And we were in the same general area, like Walmart's here, our hotel's here, and the hospital's here. Like it was just like same,
Right.
like half a
Vicinity.
mile. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we, my sister breaks down, and I break down in the car, and I remember just this is not unreal. This is unreal. And
Do you feel like God didn't want you to make that decision?
I question it
I'm
all the
happy
time.
to.
I question it all
Yeah.
the time, and that's the hardest part. But I know that that's what she told me to do.
Yeah.
And so that was the what made things a little bit easier because I knew what I had
Mhm.
to do. I knew like it wasn't like questioning like, oh, do I do this? People ask questions all the time when people die. Well, did they have a plan? I knew everything from start to finish.
Mhm.
So I break down in the car and immediately I knew I have to get strong. So we went up there.
Mhm.
My sister and I went up there together. We held hands. We prayed in there, and I just asked God to give us the strength to get through this. But I knew that
Mhm.
from that point on, it was business. I had to tend to her wishes. And the first thing was to get her cremated, which we got her cremated in Mississippi, but she was born in California and all the families in California, so that's where the funeral was supposed to be. So I had
That's
to,
where our brother's at.
yeah. So I had to fly back with her ashes, and that was hard too because in the airports now, they checking everything,
Mhm.
and they tried to open the box with her in it.
Oh,
And I got hot. If my auntie wasn't
I
there,
would.
I
Whoo.
would have punched one of them TSA agents. I was just like, you better not. And my auntie was like, calm down, nephew. Calm down. Calm down. They just gotta do their job so we can get out of here. Come on,
Mhm.
nephew. I was hot. I was just like, please don't
Yeah.
touch. I'm telling, don't touch my mom. Like I was, and then everything came so like fast, but it was easier because I knew what to do. So the process was still hard, but I knew how to plan it. She had already bought her plot, so I just needed to execute her plans. But
Man.
even after that, that was a point in my life where everything changed too. Because it was just like my mom was really gone, and then I don't know if I ever fully processed it because life came fast after that. I had to choose if I wanted to move out there to that house, which I did, which I uprooted my life from California to Mississippi, and then I moved out there a month later, or like probably a month and a few days after her funeral, which was March of 2020. And if you remember March of 2020, the pandemic hit. So
Yeah.
while out
I was
the
in Vegas.
huh?
I was in Vegas.
Really?
Yeah, the
Like,
first time I've ever seen Vegas empty.
oh wow. Like that is unreal. We're gonna talk about COVID on another episode too. Like it's
Yeah,
unreal to
absolutely.
go to a different state and then see everything shut down. And
Mhm.
like usually I'm the type of person that I was the type of person that was always careful and everything like that. But I was just like, so now on top of this, I have to get my mom's house together. The world just shut down.
Mhm.
I have to get like figure out how to be on my own in the house. I've never, had my own house.
Mhm.
So everything was just coming
It's
really,
one thing
really.
after another.
And I'm just like, I cried like off and on. Like I always tell people though, when it comes to grieving, don't let nobody tell you how to grieve or how to feel
Absolutely not.
because we all process it differently. Because to
Mhm.
me, like I was strong for the first few weeks, and then I think a week or two after my mom passed, I had a full-fledged breakdown before going to work because I just kept thinking. But sometimes that happens every now and then. I think about her like I can't. I was the type of person where I would call my mom if I was going somewhere, especially if I was going anywhere over an hour, even though she wasn't there. Like even though like if she was in Mississippi and I was in California, I'd still be like, "Hey, mom, I made it."
Mhm.
Like, and it's still in me to this day where if I'm taking a trip for over an hour, I'm just like, "Hey, I can't, I can't call her."
Mhm.
Like it's surreal, you know.
Mhm.
And so don't nobody tell you how to grieve because there are healthy things to do, but there's all there are unhealthy things to do. Now, not saying go out there and punch somebody in the face because you're somebody passed away. That's not okay. But
Nah.
anything else that you need to do, whether it's remembering them, like my wife likes to take pictures,
Yeah.
of the person. Like, that's how you grieve. That's how you process it. It makes it a memory for her. But don't let nobody else like how you grieve is not how everybody else grieves. And then
Yeah.
I want to speed up to this past weekend. The reason why I wanted to talk about this is because my wife experienced two losses this week, which was her father and her uncle. And this is the first time I ever experienced seeing someone passed away in front of me, like seeing a body that was not in a casket. Like this is
Mhm.
something that's real. And we had to wait there for 5 hours for them to come pick him up, her uncle. Like even though I didn't know him that well, it still affects you to see somebody's body right
Yeah.
there. Like, and then it's even harder because I'm getting flashbacks of my mom and I'm seeing his kids break down and I'm just like, why is this legal? We are in
Why
a
why is there one coroner
right,
to a city? I
right.
never understood that.
And then we're sitting there waiting, and then you have to keep walking past this over and over. And every time it's triggering because that's their father. So you sitting there and I can't imagine if I had to deal with that with my mom, just go back and forth. Every time you go past this kitchen, see him on not in a bed, on the floor.
And
What
you can't touch the body. You
right,
can't move it.
right. Because at one the police was like there for a minute, oh Sal, you can't touch him. What you
Mhm.
mean? Which like to me, the ambulance came and leaving somebody there, that should be illegal number one. Because y'all are capable of taking somebody to the hospital where there is a morgue. So somebody sits there for 5 hours. There's if somebody sits there for 5 hours, there's you're decomposing.
Mhm.
So
You know dead people fart.
right. So it was intense for me because I'm sitting there watching the whole family like have this breakdown, and I'm just like, what do I say? What do I do? Like I'm just here. I'm of service. I can. If I can do anything, I'm here. But people try to sit there and say the right things. The only right thing that you could do for somebody that's grieving is ask them, "What do you need from me?"
That's it.
Don't sit there and say, "I understand," because you don't.
Mhm. Don't. Mhm.
I know I know what you're going through. No, you don't.
Don't.
You don't. No matter who you lost, because you don't know how it felt to them. Because you could lose,
Mhm.
just like you said, you could lose somebody and be numb.
Yeah.
You cannot feel nothing. Or you could lose somebody and be over it in a month or two. But you don't know how they feel right then. You just know that it hurts. Like it hurts
Yeah.
bad if you see them crying. It's just like, and I wish that our society, we're in a modern society where this should not be possible, where somebody, it has to be handled better, number one. Like, even if, like I said, it costs to die. So
Yeah.
even if people don't have the money, we need to have it shouldn't cost to die, number one. Unless you want a golden casket or something like that. Like, now if you want a golden, hey,
You
you
want
gotta,
some love.
yeah, that's you gotta pay that little extra. That's on you. But I don't think you need to pay should have to pay that much money to pass away. Like, it's a ridiculous amount a lot of the times. I tell everybody in my family all the time that if I'm dead, I'm dead. Get the cheapest thing you can find. Put me in a box and bury me in the backyard. I'm dead. It don't matter to me. It don't.
I'm gone.
I'm gonna take that little life insurance money and go have some fun. Eat some good food. Tell some
Uh,
stories about me. That's you know.
my wish is not to be cremated. I don't want to be cremated. And just you know have a real small private funeral. Because I don't fuck with everybody.
I
I
feel the
don't
same
want
way.
I don't want everybody. Oh, she was a good person. And, oh my god. No, bitch. No. No, no, no. I don't fuck with no. I don't fuck with a lot of people. I got a handful of people. A handful of people that I deal with is the handful of people I want at my funeral. Or I'm gonna come back as a freaking ghost and pinch everybody. I don't got time
Right.
for it. You feel me? So yeah, don't just make it nice, private, small. You feel me? Keep it moving. Celebrate. Matter of fact,
That's how I feel. I want you to
throw a
celebrate
party.
me. I don't want no extra excessive crying. I want somebody in there. I'm gonna designate that you the person that if people show up that's not supposed to be there,
Yeah,
you get out. Nope,
turn
you
it back.
fake.
Yeah,
You got no.
turn
You
it
got
back
to.
around.
You know you didn't say that. You
Mhm.
didn't call him. You didn't talk to him like that. He didn't fuck with you.
Mhm. You got a list, like you getting into a party. You like, sir, you are not on this guest list. Like I don't see your
Exactly.
name up here at all.
Because you know
Definitely, that's how I want it.
as every funeral, I remember my one thing about my grandma's funeral that stands out is one of my great aunts, her sister, that didn't talk to her like that. I had never seen her in my life. Showed up to the funeral. It was my first time ever seeing her in life at my grandma's funeral. She fell out on the casket. Oh, yeah, take me. Ah, just like me and my cousins were sitting there staring at her like,
Shut up.
who are you? Who are you?
And why are you making this? Get back there. What's wrong?
What's wrong with
What's the
you?
problem?
My mom had to tell me afterwards that's your grandma's younger sister, and they hadn't talked in some years because she was with some man that was in a cult or something like that. And I'm
Mm,
just like, why, why, uh,
mm.
why is this happening? Why are you doing this? It was bad though. Like, so I don't want none of that at my funeral. Tell some quick stories and eat some good food afterwards. After that, don't make a big hubbub about me.
Yeah, I don't want no phony people at my funeral. Don't do it to yourself. Don't even bother. Okay?
I do want to go
I'm just
through.
laying out that right now.
Yeah, I do want to go through eventually on another episode of how to grieve, but I just wanted to share our experiences with this now, like
Oh yeah.
and the processes that we went through. Because a lot of times you don't have that somebody telling you how to, what are the steps to grieve. But a lot of times, like I said, people say the wrong things or they do the wrong things. Like sometimes, just don't bring it up. Like sometimes for some people, it's just to talk about something else. Anything but
I
the
think for
loss.
ch- I think for children though, when you experience loss at a young age, I do believe that grief counseling is necessary.
Definitely.
Like
Definitely.
really necessary. Only because although a child knows, somebody dies and things like that, but when it's close to home, it's like, I think there's a process in which a child is supposed to go through. That I don't think they should go back to school immediately, you know. I don't think that anyone should tell a child either how to grieve, but more so teach them a process, because there is a process, right? Some people are still in denial about certain deaths. Some people, feel
Al-
guilty about certain
Also,
death.
don't hide it from them
Yeah,
because it's real and it's gonna happen. Like I think that you're doing a child a disservice to sit there and say, "Well, they're not ready for." You don't know what they're ready for.
grateful. Yeah,
Tell your
absolutely.
kid who passed away and what and how. 'Cause that'll make it real to them. Don't sit there and say, "Oh, Uncle So So is in a better place now." Explain what happened. Kids
Mhm.
process stuff way better than you think they do.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's important to even have the conversation. Grief counseling for those kids is important. Talking about the
mhm,
memories is important. Letting it
yeah,
live on. That's why I am thankful for social media because a lot of times, like, people don't have videos of loved ones that passed away, but I have a lot of videos of my mom that were on social media. And luckily, my mom was the type to have cameras everywhere. So we have videos of her in the 90s and the 2000s that'll live forever,
yeah, yeah.
and it's a connection that you never have. But I think it's important to have this conversation. If y'all have lost somebody before, then feel free to share your stories down below too. We would love to hear them.
Absolutely,
I would love to hear how y'all
absolutely.
processed. How did y'all get through it?
Mm,
Have y'all ever had the experience with the coroners taking that long? Like,
right.
that's
That make
unreal.
no sense.
Unreal. To sit there through that was hard for me, and that's you know I didn't know him like I said. I met him before, but it's just
And do
like,
you ever really get over it, or do you learn how to just live with it?
right. I honestly don't think there's a getting over it because
Yeah,
the person never comes back. Like, there's nothing
right.
that you can do. There's no way to bring that person back. So you have to realize that that person is gone. So you just learn to live with it and learn how to cope with the feelings that you have. It's okay to speak about it. And then also one thing I want to talk about too is some people say don't speak ill of the dead. It's
Mm,
something that I don't agree with. If if
shoot.
if the person was an asshole while they were here,
Um, I'm gonna call it like it is.
call it like it is. Don't lie on these people. Even if it's
I'm gonna
somebody
call it
that you love, don't sit there and idealize this person in your head because they died. Well, they were the greatest person. No, they weren't.
you know what I hear people say? Oh, got show respect to the dead. But he was a piece of shit.
Exactly.
What are you talking about?
You know what movie I love?
I
Kingdom
told him
Come.
he was a piece of shit when he was
Was
alive, so why can't I say piece of shit while he dead?
exactly. You remember Kingdom Come? From
Oh, when Jada Pinkett.
I'm talking about Whoopi Goldberg's part. He was just like, so what you got to say about him? Mean and surly. Mean and surly. It's the real. Tell the truth on these people. Don't. It is not downing them if they were that in real life.
And
I,
that was it. That was the sentence right there.
it is okay. Just because the person is dead now does not mean that you have to idealize them. They were such a great person. If they weren't, then they weren't.
No,
And we all have
you're not
flaws. So if you talk about my flaws when I pass away, I'm not gonna look down and look, oh my God, yeah, I did that. And
hmm.
you did some stuff. Hey,
Facts. 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 I hate when people do that. It's like, what are we protecting, right? Seriously. Because everybody knew he was a piece of shit when he was alive.
exactly.
So,
Uh,
like, you could write, a matter of fact, how about you write it in the obituary?
right.
You know, was born such and such. Somewhere down the line, he became a piece of shit.
Exactly. From ages 30 to 52, he was an
Right.
he was an asshole and a piece of shit. And then
Yeah.
he decided to give his life to God.
To Jesus, 'cause that's how it happens. That's when they want us to say that he's a good person is after he not gave his life to Christ.
Oh yeah,
And it's like, but we're not gonna forget these 20 something years that the man was a piece of shit. We're not gonna do that.
exactly.
Remember
That's what.
the Medea when she wore the old red? He said, "Why you wear red at a funeral?" She owed me $20. She still owe me $20. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? Like, we're not gonna fake the funk here, people. You don't gotta fake the funk. You know,
And
if somebody was good to you, they were good to you.
exactly. I was just about to say that they were good to you, but also
Mhm.
allow somebody to because they could be two different people to
Yeah.
people. They can be great to you and be a horrible to this other person, but you have to be willing to accept that because
Mhm.
they weren't just who you saw them to be. And I'm realizing that a lot now. With even with my mom, like she had her good and her bad, and accepting that is good. She was good to some people, but a lot of times she was bad to me, or she was good to me. I've seen both sides of it. It's okay to
Mhm.
tell the truth though, and that's what
Yeah.
helps me grieve too, because I realized that my mom was not a perfect person. She
Yeah.
was who she was. She was my mama, and I love her, but she had her flaws, and just like I have my flaws, I'm learning how to be better. I'm learning from her mistakes.
Yeah.
So that is the podcast for this week. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Ooh, this was heavy.
Yeah.
I've gotten to the point where I can talk about Zaire without crying. Now I'm just trying to get over to the point where I can talk about my sister and not cry. Um, and it takes time. It takes time, but you know, as long as we keep her name alive and we still keep living. Um, I think that anyone who has had anyone pass away, I think that the person who is no longer here with us would just want us to keep living.
Right.
Um, because life is too short, and it's it's unfortunate, to go through those type of experiences, but what don't kill you makes you stronger, you know? And I feel like we we need a better support system too, um, for those who go through, traumatic events and things like that, deaths and stuff, because there is a lot of killing going around, there is a lot of murders going around, and then there is, people just dying of old age, I guess you can say. But I think those people who died of old age kind of figure it's about time they lived a good life.
Yeah. Yeah.
But those who die just unexpectedly or die in a sleep or, get sick out of nowhere. And it's just like, damn, if I could have just had one more year, 2 more years, or, a couple of more years, it wasn't their time to go. But, again, like Roy, you said, don't let no one tell you how to grieve, how fast to get over it, or anything of that nature. Everything takes time, and only you know when you'll be okay. Um, but you're not the only person going through it. A lot of people go through it. And again, if you've experienced any type of, death that hit you hard, please write in the comments. If you experience coroners coming 12 hours later, we would love to hear that story. But you know us, we keep it real. So we know how to do.
Right. Right. I'm surprised I was able to keep my composure, but I'm feeling
Yeah.
feelings. It don't may not look like it on the outside, but I am feeling a lot.
Oh yeah.
Talking about my mom and my grandma and all of that, it brought up intense emotion. But
Mhm.
it is difficult. I encourage you to talk about it. Be real with yourself. Be there for somebody else. Especially if you know them. Don't abandon them. Oh, I don't know what to say or do. A lot of times, your presence is all that's needed
Yeah. I
because
learned that with my ex-husband when his grandmother died. I didn't know what to do because I was so used to dealing it my way that I didn't know what to do. And like you said, all somebody really needs is your presence. Sometimes just there.
right? Just be there because sometimes you don't know what you're gonna do. That shoulder to cry on. You know, sometimes it just sit there in silence. So just be there for somebody. It's never easy. Share your experiences. If you've had to, like you said, wait for however long for a coroner to come. If you've been there and saw somebody get killed before, because that's traumatic too.
Oh,
And on
it's
another
tough.
episode, we're going to talk about the stages of grieving and how to grieve like I said, there's different ways to grieve. There's healthy ways, and then there's unhealthy things to do. Like I said, don't go out there and punch nobody and say that's the excuse. Or I went out there and I killed me and nigga because my mama died.
Oh, no.
No, that's not an excuse. And keep it real about the people that passed away. And like I said, that helped me a lot. Realizing that they were people. Don't idealize them because they passed away. They were not perfect, and no person on this earth will ever be perfect. But this has been another episode of the Raw Educated Analysis of Life podcast.
Hello.
It's been lovely to have Lay The Bae back.
Absolutely. I already know.
And we love you guys. Also, drop a like, subscribe. If you listen to this on Amazon Music or Spotify, share, like it, give us a thumbs up, let us climb up the ranks. And I didn't announce this last week, but officially, since we're on Amazon and Spotify, the episodes will be getting released early on there. So be aware of that. So if you listen to us on your morning drive, you can listen to us Fridays at 8 o'clock in the morning Pacific time. So that'll be 11 Eastern. So
Eastern. Yeah.
That's it. We love you guys. Peace.
Funny how sun shines and commence the rain. I wonder if when I talk you can sense the strain. Even when I clear my head, this remains.